So, you started your homestead. Exciting, right? But hold on. Are you accidentally setting yourself up for disaster? In today's video, we're going to cover 10 things new homesteaders need to stop doing before they make their lives harder than they already need to be. Trust me, I've made some of these mistakes myself, and I don't want you to have to make the same ones. So let's just get right into it, okay? First thing I see a lot of new homesteaders do is I see them mounding rocks around their newly planted trees. Nice small little rocks look like you're going to keep them all safe, but in fact what it does a lot of times is people put them too close. They constrain the tree from growing. They invite a lot of pests and disease, and they get lost in the weeds eventually and make it a nightmare to mow or weed whack nearby. Instead, you can use rocks, but it's better to use larger rocks, ones that can be seen with a weed whacker or a lawnmower, ones that don't get lost in the grass, and ones that are spread further away from the tree that create a nice planting basin as opposed to a tight little collar. The second thing people should pay attention to is think twice about planting coconut trees all along your driveway. I know it looks nice to have that driveway all lined with beautiful coconut palms, but you know, one day those things are going to be producing coconuts, and they're going to be impossible for you to manage. They're going to be like 30 feet tall, and all they're going to want to do is drop coconuts on top of you or your car. And trust me, I've been hit by a falling coconut once. You don't want it to happen to you. The third thing you guys need to stop doing is neglecting your water tanks. I know water harvesting might be new to a lot of new homesteaders out here in Hawaii, but you got to make sure that you pay attention to your water tanks, because a dirty water tank means dirty water, and that's the water that you're using in your house. I've just recently started a water tank maintenance company, and you should see the tanks that I'm seeing people use for their drinking water. It's dark, eerie, gross, and you wouldn't want to swim in it. So why are you drinking it really? So make sure that you clean out your water tanks at least once a year, maybe every 2 years, and just keep an eye on it at least. Make sure that they're maintained, because you are now the water company, and it's your job to make sure that your water is clean. A lot of you who are off grid tend to neglect your solar panels. These babies need to get cleaned every so often, or else they're not generating the power that you think they should be. And you might be blaming it on something else, whereas all they need is just to be clean. I have to clean my panels about every 6 months out here in Hawaii because there's a lot of stuff coming down from the sky. You got grime from the volcano, road dust, all sorts of stuff. The air is not as clean as they claim it to be. But, you know, once in a while, go up there with a brush, scrub down those panels, and clean them off. That's all you got to do in order to get more power at your house. And since you're the power company now, you got to take care of your power as well. Another mistake I see a lot of new homesteaders make is planting trees too close to their fence line. Shoot, even I did it back here, way back in the day. I planted a coconut right where my property line is. Now I got a fence running right through it. And that happens to a lot of people, where sometimes they either got to pull up those plants that were growing for 5 or 6 years, or they just got to deal with a tree in the fence. But now that tree's on the other side of the property. But hey, everyone gets the benefit from a fruit tree, right? But don't let that happen to you. Number 6 on the list of things homesteaders should stop doing is getting animals too early before they're ready. A lot of people are so excited when they get onto their new piece of land is to plant their forest and their garden, and to also get animals. But the problem is a lot of people get animals way too early, and those animals just completely decimate all the new plants that they plant. And then they got to just start all over again from there. Normally getting rid of the animals until they get their plants established, and then reintroducing animals then. That's typically the cycle that happens. So why not just skip the first part and introduce the animals when it's time to introduce the animals? Trust me, from someone with experience, you don't want an animal coming in eating up everything you just planted in your new garden. Number 7 on the list of things new homesteaders should stop doing is they should stop jumping into all their projects before thinking about them. First thing that we need to be doing is sitting back and observing our land, seeing how much rain actually falls on the property and how hot it gets in different spots on your property, and where it's cooler, where the wind might be, or the view, or where your neighbors are going to be in 20 years. All of these things are important to consider at the beginning before you do any work so that you can save time but not having to redo things over and over and over again. Because trust me, that's what all of us homesteaders do. Is we plant a plant here, we don't like it, we move it there, then we move it over here, and then 20 years later, there's a ugly view that we didn't want, and we wish we planted plants over here. All these things that we could have mitigated if we just observed the land a little bit, we had a little forethought, and we designed the future of our property before jumping into all the projects that we're so excited about. So remember, step back, take a breath, observe your property, and the design will unfold itself. And this one kind of ties into the last one. And that's trying to be everywhere and everything all at once. You can't do it. It's not possible. We are only able to do what we can accomplish. And unless you have little minions around doing work for you, that's going to be what you have time for. You don't want to start a million projects, never getting one of them done. It's better to focus in on one project, do it right, and then move on to the next one. Because trust me, I see homesteads all over the place with broken dreams, projects that are never finished. And you know what? Most of those end up failing because there's no forethought, there's no focus, there's no drive to get the projects done. And as a homesteader, you got to be the one that gets stuff done. So make sure you put some focus on one project and then move on to the next one. Coming in at number 9 is neglecting your soil building program. And this is something it's kind of funny to see on new properties where homesteaders are so excited. They just got this new home built and the property's just bare and there's really nothing at all growing on it. And they plant their new fruit tree and they just put it right there in the soil. They don't put any mulch or any compost or anything like that. Just fruit tree in the soil. And then a few years later, they're wondering why that fruit tree didn't do anything. It's because they didn't build the soil. And soil building comes in many different forms. You got to create compost. You got to build those compost piles. But you also have to grow the plants that can provide the material for those compost piles. You got to put in the pioneer fixing nitrogen fixing trees that'll grow quick and provide shade and nutrients for the soil and mulch material for the compost. You got to increase the biodiversity on the property, and you also have to bring in a lot of material from offsite in the early years. That is one of the key things that people neglect. It's because they think when they see someone else's place that's thriving and whatnot, they think that's just going to happen with theirs eventually. But the thing is, my place right now at this point in time is a thriving food forest that has everything it needs to sustain itself. Whereas at the very beginning, I had to bring in a lot of material to get it going. I brought in soil, manure, mulch every single time I went into town. And eventually that's what got it to the state now where I bring in mulch maybe once every 2 years or something. Because I got chickens, I got trees that provide mulch material. I got everything the place needs already. So there's no need for me to have to do all that extra work anymore because I planted it. And if you do that in the early years and focus on some of those tree or shrub species that provide that mulch material, you too will have good soil and plants that grow with very little work. And number 10 on the list of things that most new homesteaders should stop doing is they really need to stop planting plants they know nothing about. It's important to educate yourself before you plant something. I got this Tithonia plant right here, Mexican sunflower. Someone told me how wonderful it was for bees and everything. And they're right, bees love this plant. And it creates great compost material. But guess what? If you don't maintain it at the proper moment, you get these woody sticks that just want to root wherever they touch the ground. And now I got Tithonia everywhere and I can't control it. And that's because I didn't do my research. All I had to do was learn a little bit about the plant and I would have been just fine. All right, so I have to know, how many of you have made some of these mistakes? Drop a comment below and let's swap homesteading stories. If you think this video is helpful, go ahead and hit the like button too, and maybe subscribe so you get more content like this. That way I can see you in the next one.